Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 26 of the Operation Redwood podcast. Today's guest is a really good friend of mine. He is actually the reason why we even have the name Redwood. I've mentioned him a lot in previous podcasts. I've quoted him plenty of times, and I've given you bits and pieces of just a little bit of the knowledge that he shared with me on the redwood tree and why it's important. So without further ado, welcome my friend, my brother, Samuel Johnson. He's a professional coach, trainer, trauma expert, and he is a man of God. Enjoy the show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Operation Redwood podcast. Myself and my co-host Alfredo are joined with our good friend, our buddy, Samuel Johnson.
Hey,
Samuel, how you doing, brother? Samuel!
I'm doing well. I'm doing actually exceptionally well. I have this new haircut that people are digging. So there's that.
Hey, you know it's a good week when you're like, hey, I just got a haircut.
Hey,
the little things that make us happy, right?
The little things for. And here's actually, I'm kind of curious. We were out to dinner last night with a couple of friends, and my buddy, he's from Texas, and he moved out here. Shout out, Jonathan. He moved out here, and ever since he moved here, he found one barber. And he's gone to him through COVID, through everything. He was telling me yesterday, he followed him around. And me being a previous barber, I know like the loyalty, when you find a good barber, someone who really cuts your hair that you like, you are loyal to the end of the
stuck.
earth. You are. Are you guys the same way?
Oh yeah,
no.
For sure.
No, not. Absolutely not. I couldn't care less because my hair grows so fast. Like you could get a lawnmower to cut this thing. Like, yeah, no, I'm not loyal.
And it looks that good, man. I'm jealous.
What kind of lawnmower?
Yeah, what kind of
lawnmower are you using out there?
There's one thing I can do is grow hair. It's one of my specialties. So. My wife also has like beautiful, luscious, thick hair. So our children, like we are hair factories in this, like the nice. Johnsons. We've got our hair down pat. We got our hair game on. So.
There you go. You might want to look into some partnerships with some pomade.
True.
Yeah.
They should
words, we grow hair.
Get our blood and our DNA, and they could do that instead of Rogaine. Just rub our blood on your head.
There you go.
Good idea.
Dude, we're coming up with business ideas every day.
Yeah.
Every day in Jesus' name.
Yeah.
Samuel, why don't you take a moment and just tell us a little bit about yourself? Obviously, we're gonna, we have a lot to dive into, but give the people a little bit of what you do.
All right. Give the people what they want. All right. So I am a mental health counselor, and I specialize almost exclusively in working with people who have been traumatized. Now, my definition of that word is anything that you experience that causes distress or discomfort when you think about it. So my definition is very broad in terms of what I'm helping people heal from. And the other thing that I do is working with high distress couples. So also couples that are in trauma. So, just the easy stuff. Like that's the only thing I do when I'm doing therapy. So.
The easy stuff.
Just the easy stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Samuel's also a comedian.
Gotta keep it real, keep it fresh. So yeah.
So what do you think is easier, doing the personal one-on-one or the couples?
Oh, that's a good question.
The individual
His clients
work,
are listening right now.
Yeah. No. The individual work is probably easier just because it's one person at a time. As soon as you start getting more than one person, then you're having interactions with me and one person, and then interactions with them, and so there's more to be aware of, maintain. Manage might be the wrong word, but more to be aware of. And it's an interesting question though, because I actually like it better because it keeps my mind more engaged. So what's easier and what I like, what I enjoy more. Plus I do less couples. So it's sort of like gets your brain shifting and thinking outside of your typical box. So, but a good question. Yeah.
What
Tons
about
of
when
therapists. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, what about when there's only one person standing in front of you, but there's multiple personalities?
Well, it's an interesting
that's a great
question
follow-up.
because I don't believe in such a thing as multiple personalities. I believe in many parts of one person.
Ooh.
And how those parts express and manifest themselves may at times look like many personalities, but they're actually really, and it's a significant part of the work that I do. I work from this perspective that's called working with parts, and those parts can be so it's a continuum, right? So the like lowest or least restrictive or like least extreme on that continuum would be something like this. Like a part of me loves cheesecake, but another part of me knows it goes straight to my hips and I'm going to weigh 5 more pounds as soon as I eat it. Right. And then there are parts that resemble what another person would call multiple personality disorder, which is actually being really snooty right now is now called dissociative identity disorder. So there isn't multiple personality anymore. Everybody's getting schooled today. So there you go. It's DID now, DID. It's not multiple personality.
Dibs. I call dibs.
DID, DID.
Oh,
you call dibs on
okay.
DID.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Dissociative identity disorder. But I see those as just extreme parts that actually don't know that they're in one system. And you actually just help those parts become increasingly aware that they are a part of one person, one system. So.
That's a great explanation, because isn't that how our mind works anyways, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our mind is multiple.
Aspects of our mind, and we might feel split, right, about a topic because there's always different perspectives and angles that we might sympathize with and such.
So the language for this is going to continue to nerd out on you. So you guys are going to have to get ready for this. So this is where psychotherapy overlaps with, what is that physics called? I just blanked on the term. Thank you. Quantum. Yeah, thank you. Quantum physics, right? So if God made smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller particles, and every time they shoot that beam around the particle collider, they actually discover that no, it's not an electron and a neutron and a proton is the smallest thing. It's right quark and left quark and up and down and these bosons and leptons and all these things. So if our universe is made up of smaller and smaller and smaller things, why wouldn't we have parts? It just seems ludicrous that we wouldn't.
Parts, right.
Yeah. So parts of your mind, parts of your body, parts of our soul, parts of everything is how I see it. If we're cellular, right? And we also know that our cells have parts, and our cells are then made up of parts. Well, then why wouldn't we? Which goes back to this continuum of, if there's on this extreme end dissociative identity disorder, on this less extreme end, a part of me really loves cheesecake and a part of me knows it's going to go straight to my hips.
So how would you take that secular knowledge and apply it spiritually?
God made it. God made the world in parts. If he made us in parts, then we can understand our parts and we can get to know those parts better, because he wants us to know them better. He wants us to understand. And literally what we're talking about here is what I do in therapy. I help people get to know their parts.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that, because I know that, just as God is a Trinity, right? The Holy Trinity, he also made us in a Trinity, right? He made us as the body, the spirit, right, of life, and also the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when we depart from this life, the spirit of life goes back to God. The body just, goes back to the earth, as scripture says, from dust we come, to dust we'll return. And then our soul meets God, right? So, yeah, that does make sense to me.
Yep, for sure. What are you thinking about over there?
It just I love where this topic is at, because it's a great continuous or continuation of our conversation on spiritual warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when this episode airs, we'll be a couple episodes deep into spiritual warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And really it's like because like Apple and Spotify won't let me use warfare.
Mm-hmm.
It won't let me post an episode with the title warfare in it. So the title is The Battle Unseen.
Okay.
And I think that's such a great follow-up to what you're saying, because how many men battle with, specifically men, right? How many men battle with this identity of being a protector and a provider, a warrior and a lover, a king and a friend, all these different responsibilities that we are supposed to be upholding. But why do you think it's so difficult for men to lean in? Like, why do we lean into one so heavily and kind of like forget the rest?
Yeah, I want to think about that for a second before I just launch into an unthought of response. Well, okay. So I'm going to think of it this way, and I'm going to use this word protector not in terms of those categories right now, but these parts of us operate from a perspective of always trying to keep us safe or as a protector. So you're going to step into whatever you are skilled at doing because we want to avoid shame. Most of our day-to-day functioning, unbeknownst to us, unaware to us, we are functioning to avoid shame. So, like, maybe you were shamed for being weak. I was a pretty scrawny kid, so I'm probably going to be less inclined to focus on that protector role naturally, and maybe lean more towards being an intellectual, because that's what I did as a kid. It's like I wasn't very, I believed I wasn't very strong. So I think we're going to lean into our, I want to be hesitant around saying giftedness, but it may end up becoming that. But you're going to lean into where you were channeled naturally. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that being clear?
Yeah.
Still feels like it's floating around in my mind, but go ahead.
I think it's because it's such a kind of a big question. And it's going to take a little bit to digest, because I think even as I ask it, I reflect on myself, like, why did I lean heavily on one more than the other? What led me to that choose? Why did I choose, for example, law enforcement over being, I don't know, an engineer, whatever? Why did I do that?
Yeah.
And I really love this, and I wrote it down here: avoiding shame. Like, there's something there that I really,
there's something huge there. Everything is there from my perspective, but everything is there.
And in our previous conversations, you said something about shame, and was it like shame and something else?
The unholy trinity, I believe you call it.
Well, that one's new, but the unholy trinity is shame, guilt, and grief, and despair is in there too. Despair rides over all of them. But like shame is certainly different than guilt, and that might have been what I talked about before, how those two things are different. And I just want to highlight this piece because it's not right here, but I'm afraid I'll lose it if we're not connected to it. So our giftedness can be encouraged by others too. So, you were saying, why did you become a police? So we're going to go back to shame and guilt. So keep that in mind. But you became a policeman, and I'll tell you, one of the main reasons I became a therapist is there's two reasons. One is it was opposite of what my brother was doing. And he had already captured the engineering science world. So I was like, I don't want to be in his spotlight and his shadow. I want to do something different. And the other reason is being encouraged, right? So I actually am insanely gifted in science, right? I'm this therapist. I already ended up talking about quantum physics, and I'm a total brain nerd scientist. I love neuroscience. My giftedness, my bent is towards science. I was the top student in my school. Pat myself on the back right now. I got the biology award, the chemistry award, and the physics award.
Wow.
Now I went to a really small school, so that's out of 100 students, but still, it is what it is. And do you want to know what I majored in college? It was not psychology. Feel free to take a guess.
Biochemistry.
Physical education.
English literature.
Oh my gosh. What?
Because Mrs. Hoffman, bless your heart, Mrs. Hoffman gave a shit about me. She cared about me. She bought into me, and she molded me into, and my science teachers, who were lovely people, but they didn't buy into me.
Interesting.
So
go into that. What does buying into you look like?
She invested in me. She spent time with me after school. She helped me improve my writing. She literally took me under her wing. She saw something in me and cultivated that gift.
In writing specifically.
In reading, I actually love English literature. I don't see myself as a gifted writer, and my wife would contest to that because she's actually an English teacher. That's how we met. We were both English majors.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, you're missing a comma right there. I think you meant semicolon.
It's there, not there.
Yeah. That's kind of our turn on talk, that's what we do.
Yeah. You're going to slow down. This
right.
episode's about to change real quick.
Watch out, you guys. Be careful. Be careful. You don't want to go there.
Those are wrestling words you're using. You better be careful with that language. Dirty talk.
Right. Reel those parts in, guys. Reel those parts in, all right?
Yeah. There. Watch out. Two and two. Yeah, so I could shift into guilt and shame if you want, or is there more about this? Cultivating. So I guess there's these parallel tracks. You can either veer away from something, which is what I did with my brother, or you can veer towards something. And I think both will often happen simultaneously in terms of, you were asking, why do people choose one category, king, lover, mentor, I might not have the exact right words there, but
makes a lot of sense because your background, your father was in the military, and he was that kind of guy.
Yeah, and you guys know this because I've explained it to you both individually. Me growing up was always striving for my dad's approval.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think there's that shame of potentially letting my dad down or my family down or whatever. And I pursued things that I thought were honorable, that would be opposite of shameful. And that's what led me to, I tried to go into the military after high school because of an injury, got derailed. So I did law enforcement instead. So it was always kind of trending towards this track of service and this warrior identity for myself. How's that for you?
Well, I'm an aircraft mechanic, right? And I think that I
You're
felt
many things to be. You cannot put Alfredo in a box, like, and I've known him for a while now, so I'm like, this man, many gifts and talents. So it's
well,
go ahead.
thank you. But career wise, I'm an aircraft mechanic, and I fell into that not because I wanted to. Like if I could make more money selling tomatoes, I'd sell tomatoes. You know what I mean? Like I really don't care. Like a job's a job to me. I really don't like. I work with people that are very passionate about aircraft, and they're just like, oh, did you see the new, Boeing, da 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 da, and I'm just like, dude, I don't care. Like I really
Shut
could
up
care
and
less.
pass me the wrench.
Yeah, I was like, I need the wrench. Stop. I really don't care about this new plane that Boeing came out with. But anyways, the only reason why I leaned into that was because my brother was an aircraft mechanic, or is an aircraft mechanic. I shouldn't say was, is an aircraft mechanic, and so he got me a job, mopping the floors as a kid in high school. And then one thing led to another. Hey, pass me this wrench, and hey, go. Why don't you go put this generator on the plane? And one thing, like I said, one thing led to another, and boom, I had 6 years of experience on aircraft, and I was just like, you know what, I should probably get certified for this, since I know how to do the business.
Right. So he took you under his wings too, right? So like, yeah, there's this mentoring and teaching of gifts. I also want to just give you to a pointer. I wouldn't ask Boeing for a corporate sponsorship or anything here. So
yeah, me either. Especially with what's going on in their track record with those Maxes. Yeah.
I don't think they're going to sponsor your podcast anytime soon, just so you know.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, like, imagine like being a passenger and you see this kid like sweeping the floors. All of a sudden they're handing him a wrench and he's working on the plane. I'm like, what the?
Yeah. I actually had moments like that.
What?
I remember there was this customer, and he was a pretty faithful customer to the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew me as the cleanup boy, like, oh, there's a oil spill. All right, I'll go and clean it up. Or, he would see me there after hours because I was mopping the floor or whatever. And then he saw me one day working on a plane, and he was like, oh, what is this guy doing working on planes? And I thought he was a mop boy, And then, the shop had a good relationship. And I was like, yeah, he's pretty competent, mechanically and all this whatnot. And so, and then he asked me, oh, do you want to do some detailing? And so I got into like aircraft detailing for a hot minute.
Nice.
But anyways, yeah, just like you said, my brother took me under his wing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because at the time, I really didn't want to do it. He was always like, come on, we're going to go, work on the car. Come on. Like anytime he had to go work on a car or work on a plane, he took me with him. And I was like, I don't want to do this. This is lame. Like I just want to like hang out with my friends or whatever.
See you kicking the dirt in your like rolled up skinny jeans. I don't want to do this. It sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Like
he's from Texas, so he had like cowboy boots on.
Yeah, okay. I had to like put my revolver away, and I was pretty upset about that.
I gotcha.
Yeah, but anyways, it's funny that it works that way because at the time I was like, this is annoying, this is dumb, but it was a blessing in disguise because
right.
now I have a lot of skills that I have to thank him for and thank God that he did that.
And to honor my status as dad joke king, which my brother bestowed upon me, your brother literally and figuratively took you under the wing.
Yes, absolutely.
Did.
Yes,
yes, he did.
Good one.
Thanks.
I wouldn't have connected those two.
Oh, I just got
skills.
it.
I got Skittles? Is that what you said?
No, mad skills. I got mad skills.
Oh, mad skills. I got Skittles. It's like, you're so proud of that.
He's like, I got skills.
I'm proud of my dad joke skills.
Yeah. That's funny.
Well, I mean, that's awesome how it works out, right? When we have someone who cares about us and is able to see our gifts and our talents and then call it out and then cultivate it. I was just having this conversation yesterday, right? One of the responsibilities of a leader is to discover, develop, and then deploy skills of people. Discover their talent, develop it, grow it, hone it, refine it, train it. and then deploy it for God's kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can slow down enough, it's another thing that I help people do in therapy. If we can slow down enough, we can also hear our Father telling us what we're gifted in. Because it's really where we should be getting our calling, right? Because he gives us everything. He gives us our name. He gives us our identity. And if we slow down enough to discern that, and there's so much noise, right? Which is honestly a part of this. I'm so connected to this idea right now of noise. I'll explain that in a minute, but if we can slow down and listen and hear God, he will tell us his will. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, God, just please tell me what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. Because there's a lack of maturity in that, or it's at least developmental. But hearing how God designed us to be who we are. I was actually thinking about this morning a little bit about like, I mean, God didn't design me to be a mechanic or a policeman. I am perfectly suited to be a therapist, and as a male, and what that means, like being this person in touch with their feelings, and like, is that masculine? And well, the most masculine thing that you can possibly do is express your gifts for the glory of God.
Ooh,
that is the most masculine, like, because that's living out God's calling for you. And isn't that exactly what Jesus did? He lived a life fully devoted and fully connected to God. I don't remember which ancient father said it, but he said, God's design is man fully alive, right? The glory of God is man fully alive. And if we're hiding that stuff, right, hiding our light under a bushel, right, it is the least masculine thing that you can possibly do. God gave us a wide range of what it means to be masculine, and we've narrowed this definition to some sort of like Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, right? Like, yeah. Thank you very much for that. And it's dishonoring. It's so dishonoring to our Father to not live within your full capabilities and potential.
Yeah, we go back to stewardship, the gifts that he gave us, the body that he gave us, the mind that he, cultivated in us.
Man, that I really like that quote, God's design is man fully alive. Mm-hmm. And what is that? What makes you come alive? Yeah. Right? Because it's almost like an individual thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Like there's things that
it has to be.
Yeah, there's things that will make you come alive that won't make Samuel or I or anybody else. And that's there's a beauty in that. But I think society and the world in general is trying to just make everyone the same. Yeah. Like everyone has to fall under this umbrella. Everyone has to like this. Everyone has to follow this worldly view of success and power or whatever, right? And really it's not. And I think that's why a lot of people, I mean, I can speak on entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs they end up burning out, unhappy, messed up marriages and relationships with their wives, their kids, because they're not coming alive. Yeah. They think that aliveness from money, success, fame, all these things that the world says is valuable, unless God's called you to be that tool to steward over that fame, money, success, whatever, it's going to be really hard to sustain that. And I think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs specifically burn out and ruin marriages, because they're not coming alive. Men specifically, right? We're not coming alive.
Or we get consumed.
Yes.
We get consumed by it.
Yeah, I think about this, like, and that goes right along with what you're saying. If you're consumed, you're doing it from this place of what you think it's supposed to be, right? It's like, so what I see is an entrepreneur in the guru space who's thinking that you're supposed to do it like all the other gurus, right? Like, and that's what gurus sell, is they're like, do these 5 things. And I mean, my goodness, at this point now, like you can pick up, okay, that person who wants to sell me this product got his script from this guy. I know where he got it from, because I can see doop, 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 doop. Yep, next one, you know, and it's really transparent in that like body transformation space. I need 5 people who want blah, blah, blah by this date. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know where you got this script. So
I get those ads on Instagram all the time. It's like, I need 5 guys in the Arlington Heights area, that want a body transformation. I'm just like, get out of here, swipe.
I have three spots left.
Yeah.
So by the way, the guy who introduced that to everybody, he's probably not going to be your sponsor either. I'm just like helping you guys like out,
Who is this? Who made the script for that? Because everyone's using the same bloody script.
There is a lot.
Chandler, somebody did one of them.
Oh yeah,
Chandler Bing. Chandler Bing.
No, it wasn't.
It's I'm sorry.
Pivot.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great one. Carlene's gonna love this episode because this one of her favorite shows, Friends.
Friends is awesome. I don't care what anybody says.
I think The Office is still better, but anyways,
war.
What was I saying? It was Chandler. It's actually before him. Like the people who mentor Chandler, where he got that from. I was in like a mastermind with those people. Like, and it was really, really interesting to see. What's it called? Where it started to where it is now.
Yeah.
And the people getting in the game now thinking like, oh, this is new.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
And we can, I mean, we can even make this into like a biblical thing because that's how I see things. I used to, what do they say? Every successful CEO reads at least a book a month, right? Or multiple books a month, like at least 12 to 15 books a year or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to read a book every month. I'm like going through these books and I'm going through, and really, I was taking a few bits and pieces, but I wasn't really getting the full knowledge of it. And over time, I realized I'm like, a lot of these books are saying the same thing. Just kind of elaborating on a little, just slight difference, right? And then when I start to read the Bible and I'm like, holy, this is where they got it from. This is where it's really from.
I have a buddy of mine who's really into like self-development books, and he reads this and that. He's like, oh, I learned this, I learned that. It's like, oh yeah, it's in Proverbs. Oh yeah, that's that's from Ecclesiastes or whatever.
That's what he does to me when we first met, and we're talking, and I'm like saying these things, and he's like, oh yeah, that's from the Bible. And I was like, no, it's not. It's from Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
What's this one too, right? This is the one of the ones that and I'm gonna riff off it for a second too, but this is you're gonna become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. I mean, that's straight out of scripture. That's Proverbs, right? Solomon said that first, but there's actually something that's really interesting about that piece for me is, sometimes if you work with people that are in distress, the people that you're spending the most time with are really distressed people. Right. And that's who God has sent me to. Right. So like, quite honestly, when I hear that thing about, well, you're going to become like I'm like, I reject that. I reject what you're saying. That is not true. I'm not receiving that into my system because the people that I spend the most time with are unhealthy and they need to be healed. So I spend the most time with God because he's the one who's going to protect me and shield me from that belief that I'm going to become like, just like all these people that I'm serving. And I'm not here to say that people are broken, and I work with all, a lot of people I'm with are lovely people, but they're coming because they have trauma, and it's in my space and in my room all the time.
So before we hit record, I hope you don't mind me speaking about this. It's funny you say that because, like you said, you're spending most of your time with these individuals who, have a cloud over their head or have some darkness that they're trying to work through, that they need help, XYZ. And you said that you are getting out, or you're now out of a dark time, and you're hitting a low. And so you're saying you reject that. And I love that you saying that you're rebuking it, right? Because you are leaning on God and saying, God, I need to confront this, right? Whatever this individual is dealing with, for them, give me the ability to help them work through it, for your glory, glorify yourself here. And so I'm trying to word my question, but I guess what would be the hardest thing about working with these individuals and that darkness kind of seeping in?
Okay.
Does that latch on to you sometimes? Does that?
It's a really good question, and I this might not be like a really sexy answer, but it's how subtle it is, right? Because it's what you're not seeing, right?
Absolutely.
So I think I'm interpreting you a little bit here, which is probably unfair, so you can correct me, but you're looking for like, well, what is the thing that you see? And my answer is going to be, it's actually the opposite. It's what you're not seeing. It's what you're not aware of, which is why I have to be connected. And I go through phases where I'm more connected to spirit and less connected. And when I'm less connected, more is seeping in, right? And my wife is a wonderful reminder. We can talk about this in a minute if you want. She is my sword. I'll explain what that means in a minute. She is my sword. She can see that darkness in me. So I have to rely on her. Women divine things. So I'm not calling women divine like a god. My wife is divine to me, but shout out to my lovely wife, Jennifer. But what I'm talking about is women can see things in the spiritual realm, I believe, that men cannot see. Men are very linear thinkers, and women have been gifted by God to be able to see a bigger picture. And I think we are foolish as men if we don't rely on women to see some spiritual realities that we can't see, since we're talking about spiritual warfare. I think we fool ourselves when we think we're the sword. And I'll explain this further because I know you guys are wrinkling your heads a little bit over this. I believe, and this didn't come from me, it actually came from my dear, dear friend, Benjamin Norman. God bless you, brother. I love you so much. He saw this in a vision. It came to him from spirit. And he said that men are the shield. When we are shielding our wives and our families, then wives and our kids can function properly in the home. It is our job to be the protector of the home. And we want to be the ones going out there and battling. Okay. When we hold the shield, then our wife can discern where it is we need to fight. They hold the sword and they hold it right here. Okay. So I know I'm blocking a view a little bit. I'm doing it on purpose, but imagine that this shield is translucent. And I'm going to pull it down so you can still see me. Your wife is seeing you on her side of the sword, and then she's giving to you on this side. This is who you are. You are brave. You are powerful. You are strong. You have the power to do this. So when we shield, our wives can discern the sword more accurately. When we don't shield, the sword doesn't work.
Interesting.
That's an interesting one. I've never heard it put that way.
Yeah, you haven't, because it was a direct download from the Spirit to Benjamin. And he should put it in a book because it's outstanding.
I totally agree that women have a gift when it comes to you put it as divining, discernment.
Yeah, discerning.
I've seen that a lot when in the relationships that I've met that, you know, they're believers and they're connected to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I also completely agree that men are the shield. You know, men always are trying to shield their family. At least they should be, right? They're trying to shield their family from the nonsense that's out there. You know, they try to keep order in the house and say, you know, this is the truth. This is the way things are. This is the way that God created us to be, and XYZ. I'm trying to wrap my head around women being the sword, right?
Yeah, I know.
I'm trying to understand that
they're not fighting the world with that sword. They're divining truth. They're using the sword as truth. And we would fare better if we would receive that light and receive that truth from our wives. So then we can go out and fight. Okay? So this is about a connection between me and my wife. And when she's divining truth for me and I'm shielding and protecting her, then I can go out into the world. So this is like internally in the family. It's not an invitation for her to battle. It's an invitation for her to divine truth to me.
Right.
Because that is her gift.
Kind of like directing you in a way.
Yes. Yeah. She is the neck, right? Is that and the neck turns the head. Yeah. So another way of saying it is we are the head, and then she would be the heart. You know, it's all these different languages, but I really love this idea about shield and sword. So her sword isn't meant as a battle sword outside. It's as divining truth to you, cutting right to our hearts.
I think that sits with me a little more. I think that at least wraps it for me that I can understand, you know, a little bit better. Because when it was earlier, like, she's the sword, I'm like, okay, you know, I'm trying to understand that.
She's
it was just
your
like,
sword.
With me.
She's your sword.
Yeah, I sit with that better also because biblically, you know, the sword is the word of God, you know, and so what is the word of God? It's the truth. You know, it's the manual that we should live our lives by.
And women see truth clearer than men can, I believe. I believe that they see things that we can't see in the spiritual realm. I'm just speaking for myself. My wife is much more spiritually sensitive than I am. And I think if we're all honest with ourselves, you know, like that, I mean, women are more spiritually, more relationally, more connectively aware. And if the Trinity is partially relationship, right? I mean, I think we could value our women's discernment more, and we'd save ourselves a lot of trouble.
So do you think women make better, like, visionaries than men?
Yes, and they also make better decisions.
That's probably good. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm like,
When, you know, so like right now, I know you're thinking like, wait a minute. When we are shielding them, they make better decisions. When they're not shielded, then they're having to do both. When they're protected, when they're guarded, when their mind can be free to do what it's meant to do, yeah, they absolutely make better decisions than we do.
So do you think like that kind of stems from the whole like like women empowerment where they're trying to be both shield and
Right.
sword.
And sword. Yep. And no, it's not like, I mean, this is actually about being masculine. Men have abdicated their responsibility of shielding.
Yeah.
Right. You guys talk about it all the time on these podcasts, right? But men have just left, and women are now having to do both. And no, they're not going to make good decisions then. So that's what we see in society is women making poor decisions.
That just hit for me now. Like that just started to like finally come. I'm like, all right, I'm not getting traction track. No. Oh,
there it is.
Boom.
Yeah. God created us to work
Truth
together.
bombs.
You know,
Yes.
that's the whole reason why he created Eve, is because it wasn't good for man to be alone.
Yeah.
And so we're made for each other, literally. You know, it's two puzzle pieces, and they don't do the same. They don't do the same work. You know, they don't work the same. They each have their role.
Yeah.
Complementary.
And I mean, like.
Complementary.
Yeah,
that's a good word.
And even by design, if you look at it in like a war type of perspective, like the shield is obviously designed to protect, the sword is meant for more of an offensive weapon. But in a real fight, you use both to do
yes,
both.
Absolutely.
The shield can be
absolutely
obviously meant to defend, but you can also use it in an offensive way.
Absolutely.
Same thing with the sword. You use it to attack, but you can also use it to block.
Fend off. Yep.
Exactly. So there's multiple uses for it.
Right.
It's just which one are you really better at? And if you're not proficient, and you're trying to do both, it's hard to, maneuver.
That's right. Yeah. And you don't have the support of someone else utilizing their gift and talent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just like the 300 Spartans, is it the phalanx, the formation. When you link arms with one another, you can stop a wave of armies coming through. Yeah. And we just talked about this during the spiritual warfare conversation. I think it's probably the first episode of that series where my shield is only this big and it only protects, a certain part of my body. Yeah. But when we link together, those parts are now even more covered by a piece of his shield, a piece of his shield. When you link together in arms with other men, and you can protect each other.
And our protection.
And not only each other, but you also protect the people that are behind you.
Yeah.
Right.
The shield of faith.
And our protection, I'm going to go back to this idea about working with your wife. Our protection, working as a shield, her sword is going to get through our protection. Right. So this is about safety and connection in that relationship. So knowing, well, when can the shield step aside for us to receive that sword from our wives? And it just happened yesterday. Women generally don't want our hard truths to them because they already know it. They already know, these conversations where we think, well, honey, you should this, and this. She already knows. She doesn't want that crap. She wants you to shield her. She wants you to love her. She wants you to come alongside her. She wants you to give her a hug. She wants you to say, we're going to get through this together. She's not an idiot, gentlemen. She discerns most of it. And I wasn't saying that to you. I'm saying it to everyone out there listening. She already knows. Stop treating her like an idiot. She knows. Support her, love her, work with her through it. She already sees it way more clear than you do.
So how would you take that, and let's say you're trying to give constructive criticism, or you're saying, hey, we really need to work on XYZ.
To your wife?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're saying she already knows that, right?
She already knows.
And so,
number one is, does she feel safe? Does she feel safe? Okay. So we've got to answer that question first. Nothing that you share with her is going to go in if she doesn't feel safe. And there's lots of ways to discuss safety. I don't beat my wife. Of course she's safe. No. Try again. Right. Does she feel emotionally safe to let her guard down? Okay. So now we're going to go to the deep end of the pool. Okay. if a woman is going to feel safe, she has to open, doesn't she? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A woman has to open to a man. She will close right up if she doesn't feel safe. Okay? So gentlemen, you need to find the way first. I'm watching a snowstorm, by the way, outside my window. You need to create emotional safety first. So how do you do that? How do you create emotional safety? Love her when she's losing her mind, when she's crying, when she's emotional, when she doesn't understand why she's acting the way that she is. You say, honey, I love you so much. I am right here. I'm not going anywhere. And whomever you are this day, I love and respect and care about you. I would marry you again in a heartbeat, even when you're quote unquote losing your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Women need to feel safe. Okay. So I would start there. So then the question is, okay, how do you share information with them? Come alongside them and show them, don't tell them, show them. Women don't want to be told, they want to be shown.